Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome. We're just getting set up.
Situated.
Yay. Live technology.
Yeah.
So welcome to our continued Lastics chats on Instagram Live. My name is Emma. I'm a Lastics stretch instructor, and I'm with my husband Ian today.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about hips and hip flexors and all kinds of fun things like that. So Ian, why don't you tell me a little bit about sort of why you wanted to have this conversation today?
Yeah. So I'm an actor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an athlete as well. I work at a rock climbing gym and I climb very frequently. So I'm a very physical person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exercising constantly. I run, I dance a little bit, used to more in college, but I've, always had a very vivid relationship with my body. And today specifically, and something that's been kind of bothering me lately has been my hips, especially as I get older and as I grow more active and as the activity that I do starts to become more intense and more focused. I've noticed that there are just kind of a couple of problems and issues and tightness in my hips that I haven't had before. I've never been super flexible, especially regarding my my straddle and my splits, and I've always felt a lot of tightness in my hips. So I was hoping that we could kind of talk about that, and I could just learn a little bit about any suggestions you might have and what Lastics might be able to do for me in both increasing my performance, my flexibility, and just my comfort on a day-to-day level.
Well, this is the perfect thing for you because from my own personal experience, Lastics has drastically improved my relationship with my hips. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in. We'll see if we catch them. But so we'll keep an eye. But something that I noticed you talking a lot about is how much you're active and you're exercising. But what a lot of people don't know is that your hips are also involved with your sitting.
Oh.
And like when you're sitting at a computer, either working or playing video games or
doing
anything.
Much more in the quarantine lately.
Yep. And so hip flexors are involved in everything. And our whole hip, not just the hip flexors, the hips are involved with everything. And what I've noticed tends to happen, and I first noticed this through dance people, but then I noticed it with all athletes and then with just everybody, is when we sit at a computer, like let's pretend we're sitting at a computer, right? And we sit like this, if we're perfectly balanced, and we dig our thumbs into our hip sockets, they feel like they might be a little sore, but they feel pretty squishy, right? Maybe not you.
Not much on my body is squishy.
But if you slump, they start to. Do you feel like little bloop blips in your hip flexors?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And that, and even when we roll forward as dancers, we go forward, then the hip flexors start to fire. And that's because our hip flexors are wonderful. We love them so much, but they tend to try and get involved with things that we don't actually need them for. And once they start to fire, they'll want to help with everything. And that can lead to tightness and even discomfort. So what we like to do with Lastics is we do some stretches to make sure we get to those very deep, very intricate muscles. And that's another thing that's hard is because the pelvis is so complicated, they're big bones, first of all. They're some of the biggest bones we have, attached to some of the biggest muscles we have, because not only are the hips in the front, hips also extend to the back because we're three-dimensional, and our biggest muscle is our butt. So, and all of the muscles, they go like this. They're very crossed and like all the different which ways. So they can be really hard to stretch. So what you're feeling is very normal and very broad in terms of the scope of most people's experience.
Okay, that's good. Because I've noticed, it's not just, the front of my hips, my hip flexors that are often very tight. And I tend to get like this weird clunking in it as well, or it kind of gets stuck on itself almost. But I've always really struggled to stretch them because I feel like I can stretch my calves, my quads, my hamstrings, and everything like that. But when it comes to actually figuring out how to stretch the hips, like I don't know how to stretch the front, I don't know how to stretch the back by my butt, I don't know how to stretch the sides, and oftentimes, especially down like the side by my IT bands, they tend to get very, very tight and very stiff, and actually get to a point where I feel like I get like a big Charlie horse right there or something, especially if I'm doing any sort of movement where I've really got my leg extended out here for any period of time.
Yeah, when you're climbing.
Yeah, or especially when I start, because I, you know, a little different than dancing, I have to actually bear body weight. Once I get my foot up here, it's like, bing, now it's like I've got 80 pounds on that leg resting on that flexor. And so I would love to talk about, you know, how to actually work through not just the front of that hip, but how to actually kind of, you know, pay attention to the whole thing. Like you said, it's three-dimensional, and I've always felt like it's all kind of screwed up. I'd really like to address it.
Definitely. Well, I have some stretches for us to try.
Okay.
But what did I want to say? I wanted to say first, the clunking that you talked about. I definitely feel that, and if you feel any sort of pain, go see a professional healthcare provider. But my experience was because I wasn't feeling any pain, it was just a sensation. When I went to talk to
it doesn't really hurt.
Doctor,
it just feels kind of stuck sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't really, like, they were like, we can't really do anything. Like, we can't really do an MRI or an X-ray because you're not in pain, so it's not worth it. But it felt like it was hindering my movement, and I felt it personally when I would do any sort of high kicks in dance, which is more specialty. Yeah. But I would also feel it, and I'm sure you've done this, where you lay on your back and you do the bicycle ab workout. That I felt it every time. Yeah. Like, it's almost like
like you're cracking your knuckle.
Yeah.
Right? Just in your hip.
And nothing helped. You know, I did yoga, I did gyro, I did all of those things. They helped with so many other things, but nothing seemed to get to that hip until Lastics.
Okay.
And then I started doing, there's one diagnostic and two sort of stretches that really helped me have a better understanding of my own body. Okay. And then I started doing these stretches, and my hips don't clunk anymore.
Really? Like at all?
Like at all. Like maybe sometimes they'll pop, which is a different, you know, like when you crack your knuckle, it's like a one-time thing. And you're like,
but this almost feels like I'm feeling a tendon go over something incorrectly.
Which, I'm not a doctor, I don't know exactly what it is, but it definitely was that was exactly my feeling. Yeah. And it would happen it wasn't just like a pop and done, it was every time. Yeah. So it was difficult to feel that and not really know how to address it, and that's when Lastics really helped. Do we have a question? No, I think we're good. Okay. Anyways, I just saw some things I wanted to check in. So that's what I would say is we definitely have some stretches in Lastics, and the reason they're so unique is something that I've noticed with Lastics. And we can do a whole special, maybe we'll do a whole special on just stretches for climbers.
I would love that, because I've got all sorts of problems with my back, my elbows, everything. Yes. I'm real screwed up.
Yes, so we'll do that. Maybe we'll do it in a climbing gym. That would be
that'd be fun. Once, bring it by clips.
Yeah, once we can be outside in the real world again. So come, if you know anybody who's a climber, keep an eye out, and we will do one just for that community. But for today, we can do some stuff for your hips, because I feel like that is not just for climbers, not just for dancers. It's a very, very universal feeling. Yeah. And Lastics is so unique, and these stretches especially will highlight what Donna's brilliance is two-dimensional motion. Okay. So when we stretch, Donna likes to say, we'll put you in a position, and then we do micro movements to really get that deep, unique stretch. Right. And usually what it is, it's an oppositional motion. And that's all very physical and technical. Yeah. But
I'm very used to it.
You can very much feel it. Yeah. And so we'll give that a shot. Do you want to give some stretches of that?
Yeah, sure.
Or do you have any other questions?
Mostly just like what when I'm looking at this, and in doing Lastics, I know you're an instructor, and I'm married to you, but I haven't done a ton of Lastics with you. I've done a couple of things and a lot of like overall whole body things, and they hurt. They make me cry, and I always yell at you, and I'm sorry.
It's good yelling, though.
Yes, it's good yelling.
There's good yelling and bad yelling in every marriage. That's good.
But
I love you. It's like broccoli.
Yeah,
it's good
but
for you.
in doing this, and in specifically focusing on my hips, like what is Lastics going to do for me? Like what is it going to achieve? What am I looking for? What do I want to have happen? What don't I want to have happen? And how is it going to help me going forward?
I think the number one thing we don't want to have happen is pain.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between stretch pain and tearing pain.
Yes.
And I noticed that is an intimidation for a lot of people when they're starting to learn how to stretch.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you just have to take it easy and go slow and listen to your body. And the more you do it, the more feedback you will get. And it's surprising when your body goes, nope, nope, stop. And then you just back off. And the lovely thing about Lastics is we don't use like machines and we don't like prop. We use the muscle to stretch. Your own strength is what is going to stretch you.
Okay.
And so that already builds in a safety net.
Yeah.
Like you should always be careful. But because it's dependent upon the strength of your muscle, your body will stop before you really start to feel pain.
Okay.
Or not really start to feel pain.
But before I really start to hurt myself.
Before you really start to hurt yourself. Like if you, for example, if you lay on, like I see a lot of people that try and do the splits.
Yeah.
And they put one foot out in front and one foot behind, and they can't reach the floor very well. So they just kind of they're kind of using gravity to get their stretch.
Yeah.
That can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if your foot slips, that's how you can injure yourself. Lastics does none of that.
Right.
It's a very safe stretch that you use your own body, and the only time we pull in straps or blocks is for extra support.
Okay.
It's never to increase your stretch.
Okay. That's good, because that's a problem I've always had with stretching is I've got, early onset arthritis for a young man, and I struggle with a lot of things in my joints, and my tendons are often under a lot of strain and a lot of stress, and so especially around like my knees and things like that, I get wary of stretching my hips or stretching the back of my legs.
Because your hips and knees are actually very connected.
Yes.
The hips are so unique because they're the pivot point between upper body and lower body.
Yeah.
It's center of gravity. And hips, it's so funny because an issue in your hip can manifest in your knee just as easily as in your neck.
Yeah.
Like it's such a center of things.
Yeah.
Which is
Often
so
why
fascinating.
It's probably the center of a lot of problems as well. And so something I want to focus on and I am concerned about is just making sure that I can still get those stretches while also being careful of my knee and making sure it doesn't pop out of place like it has the tendency to do.
It has done before. Yeah. I think with that, it's go slow, listen to your body.
Okay.
And I know that you tend to this is you personally,
yes.
This doesn't apply to everybody, but the rushing, if I'm not feeling this max stretch, and I've noticed that with athletes especially, is I need to feel the max stretch, otherwise it's not worth it.
Right.
And that's not always the case because muscles are not always balanced. You can have, strong quads and weak hips. You can have a tight hip on one side and a looser hip on the other. That happens to me when we stretch. One side I can lay flat on my back with my knee down and it's fine, and the other side I have to prop. So that is something that Lastics also helps with, especially with hips, because hips are so complicated, is to go, if you feel a stretch in one spot, that's enough.
Okay.
It could be this much. You could feel on your body, if you had to point to where the stretch is, it could be this much space.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. like a hamstring stretch. But even then, with hamstrings, sometimes I feel a pinpoint stretch. And so that is something that, and once that pinpoint stretch once the muscle starts to lengthen, you'll start to feel it in other places, especially with hips, because hips are so complicated.
Right.
So it's a little bit different than your calf, for example, which has far fewer muscles. It does have some crossover, but nothing like hips.
Right. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
great. I'm sure these people have heard us talk enough. So can we get into some stretches and some suggestions?
Let's set it up.
Awesome.
I'm gonna move you all,
Awesome.
and I'm just checking to make sure we got anything. Any questions? Just checking to make sure, because I don't want to miss any questions.
Right.
And it's so little.
Should I start moving the table?
Yeah, go ahead and move the table back. Lovely, lovely. Let's get this set up. No. We need the table. We're going to put it on the table.
Oh,
You all can see our Christmas tree. Yay! Okay, let's see. How's that angle? That looks pretty good. Okay, let's sit on the floor. So the first thing I'd like to do is a diagnostics test. Oh, I can't quite see. Let me do.
We can move this up a little bit.
Oh, yay. This is what happens when you have to be tech crew and you're live. Whoa, no, we're dropping everybody. Let's go straight on the floor like this. Like that. All right. That's better because I want to make sure everybody can see the geometry of our legs. So let's start with this. This is the hardest stretch that I do in Lastics for me because it's a combination of stretch and strength.
Okay.
So you actually might like it because it's actually more strengthening than it is stretching.
Great.
So this one is my favorite diagnostics hip stretch. So what we do is we send our legs out in front. There's a little bit of space in between our feet, and our feet are nice and relaxed. And we stack head, shoulders, and hips all in nice, easy alignment. Yes. This is also going to help you be able to sit vertically.
I'm also already struggling with that. I feel like my lower back wants to just plurk out.
Because you probably have tight around, like you probably have a tight lower back. And that's what I was saying before about hips is it's front and back. And so that's why this is a great diagnostics, just to see where you're at. And also to be like, oh, those are my hip flexors. That's what exactly what she's talking about. So you're ahead of me. We're going to dig our thumbs in to our hips. And now from here, we're going to do the rest. We're going to press the backs of our knees down into the floor and sit up tall on our center. Now, in your hip crease, what do you feel? Does it feel loose? Does it feel tight? Do you feel like a hard ridge?
I do. I can feel my hip flexor. I can actually feel it a lot more on my right side than on my left side. My left side, I can feel it, but I can kind of stop the activation. But if I want both my stuff to be stacked up and my knees to be pressed into the floor, I'm struggling to let this hip relax. Yeah.
And this is what we're gonna, I don't know if you'll be able to do it today, but I'd like for you to feel on me. So go ahead and dig your thumb in right here.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do, you feel that, right?
Yeah.
You feel that ridge.
Right.
I'm gonna really press the backs of my knees into the floor. You can relax, you can relax, but keep it on me. Keep it on me, yeah. Press the backs of your knees into the floor and really engaging my low belly muscles.
Oh, wow.
Do you feel that going away?
Yeah, it just went.
It was like, blah, blah, blah. And like what you'll feel is sometimes it'll just like little bloop, bloop. Yeah. But did my posture change at all? No. And that's a way to tell which muscles we actually do need to sit up straight and which ones we don't. Because I can even like now start to relax my knees so I can just sit normally. And like it's still not that hard ridge.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a great diagnostic test for those of you who do Lastics all the time. You'll know this one. It's usually when we come to the floor for the first time and we sit, we stack, and then we flex our feet back, and we point and flex, knees down, sit up, point, and flex. So we do this every single Lastics, almost every single Lastics class, depending on the teacher. I do it every Lastics class. And it took about a year of doing this to be able, I would dig my thumbs in each time to be able to get my Go ahead and separate your feet a little bit more. That might help. Yeah. To get my upper muscles in my legs to turn off and be able to support myself.
This is really hard.
Using, this is, and go ahead, relax. That I always say that is, that's a strengthening class.
Yeah.
Even for people who can all the way over.
I cannot do that.
That's a really good, that's a wonderful Lastic stretch to show how Lastics both strengthens and stretches. Because if you're one of those people that can't quite sit up yet, you're kind of here because everything behind here is too tight. Maybe your hamstrings are too tight. Again, it all comes down to this pelvis.
Right.
It's a great stretch. If you're one of those people that can fall over, it's a great strengthening exercise. So it really depends on where you're coming in.
Okay.
And it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It gives you vitamins like broccoli.
Awesome.
You love broccoli. You do love broccoli. So this is a good one. And then the next stretch, which you've done, is this one, where we bend our legs and put our knees down. Yes. So, you've done this one before, and you've expressed concern about your knee.
Yes.
So, what I would say about that, in order to make sure that you stretch, you can still get this stretch. And this is my favorite hip stretch ever.
I'm already feeling something in here.
So, usually what we do is we slump down and give yourself a wiggle. Yeah. And I like how your knee is nice and forward. It's not really open, even though I know you have like 180 turnout. I hate you. No, stop. We don't want to do that. Don't make me jealous. And now you squeeze your butt and use it to roll up and over. But this is just a warm-up for you, because I know that you could feel it. So let's just use this as a warm-up. How does your knee feel when we just move a little bit?
My knee feels okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just do that. We squeeze, and then we release the butt. And then slide your hip back and down as you get taller through your center. This is that Lastics two-directional energy that I was talking about earlier. Yeah.
See, I can already feel that a lot more in this hip flexor here.
Yeah. Let's do it again one more time. Squeeze your butt cheek and roll. Yeah. Release and slide back down as you get taller through your center. Your spine looks lovely.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Grew it myself.
That's funny. So let's walk ourselves back. But because I wanted to protect your knee, our poor Christmas tree's in the way. I just want you to walk back onto your hands.
Okay.
Now, do you feel anything in your hips?
I feel a little bit, again, in that hip flexor here.
It's pretty high up. And then we're going to do the same thing. Go ahead and squeeze your right butt cheek and roll it up and over. Yeah. You actually don't even need to go you don't even need to move it that far, because once you start twisting your spine, it can get out of your hips. So just leave it relaxed and just squeeze your butt cheek. Just use your that's that. Now, draw your lower abs up and in, so you're trying to tuck your pelvis under. Do you feel that?
I do.
Really, that's the trick. Yeah. Is that tuck under. And the nice thing about this that's keeping you safe is you can't pull it any more than your muscle will allow you to.
Right.
But you're still getting a stretch.
I'm already feeling kind of like there's a little separation down at the knee here, though.
Okay. Then I would come up and only go back on one hand. And then roll your pelvis under.
Okay,
from
that feels
here.
a lot better.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about this stretch, is it doesn't matter how far you go back. What's more important is this squeezing your butt, rolling under, and now push this knee down into the floor. Woo-hoo. Do you feel that here?
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel that here?
I do.
You do. Okay. How bad is it?
It's not that bad. It doesn't feel like it's going to fling. It just feels weird. I can feel a very definite activation of the two.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's going to floop out, but at the same time, my knees are kind of weak, and I don't know what they're going to do at any given time. So is this something that strengthening might actually help keep that in place?
I think it will. Okay. It depends. Is it painful?
No. It's not painful.
So that's the thing, and this is something that I talked about in my last round with my sister, is that we have to balance our muscles between strength and stretch, and knees are actually really, really hard to stretch.
Yeah.
Because they're mostly cartilage and ligament and bone.
Yeah.
So stretching in the knee is not the goal.
Yeah.
But stretching all around the knee, so all of this and all of this, and especially your hip, is going to help your knee as long as you keep your knee safe.
Okay.
And that feedback is really good because when you start out, maybe you just come back, you squeeze and roll, you push your knee down, and then we actually usually add to it. We squeeze our other butt cheek and then push, and then re-roll your abs and push both knees down, breathe in and out and release and relax and come up. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just little things. And starting with just the little short stretches.
Right.
It's better to just do a little short thing than be like, okay, I really have to dig in and get in there.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you'll be able to see if having this release and relax helps this.
Okay.
But going slow, taking it carefully. And the nice thing about this is if you feel something at any time,
just go.
you just relax and come up.
Yep.
It's a very, again, there's that safety net.
Yeah.
And it is tricky. It is a tricky situation. And if you feel anything really bad, then you should go see a doctor.
Right.
But this is something that you can do at home. And obviously, if a doctor tells you not to do this, then don't do it. But this is something that we can do to help with that hip flexor and that relationship between your hip and your knee. And that's what's going to stretch from when you are sitting at the computer like this with your knee. You're sitting in a chair, obviously.
Right.
But that's what that's going to help with.
Okay.
The last one, we get to lie down.
Okay. Should we do the other side to even it out?
Yeah. We'll have to stretch the other side. But
Later.
Let's do that. We'll do that after. So let's lie down. Woohoo! And we're going to do a figure 4 stretch. Ooh. Lovely. Yes. So we're going to do the very traditional figure 4, like this. And usually we do all of these in a sequence. I'm just cutting out the sequence for time's sake, yeah? So tell me where you are feeling sensation.
I'm feeling sensation back here, a little bit on the inside of my thigh.
How about knees?
Knee actually feels okay.
Okay, then this is probably
but again,
a
that
good
twisting
one
is a little iffy, but not in a danger zone.
So, what I would love you to do now, since you're already feeling a stretch, don't pull your knee any closer, but pull your tailbone down to the floor. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah.
And that stretch is gonna get, and that's that again unique to Lastics.
Yeah.
That very little micro movement, all of a sudden you feel so much more sensation all around, in front, behind.
Oh, I love that.
Everything. So this might be a good stretch for you to do to start off with.
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
Once you get more length in your muscles, then you can move on to the one where we sit on the floor in 4th.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and release your tailbone. You can let it curl up a little bit and uncross and go ahead and come up. And we'll do the other side once we have let
Sounds good.
the lovely people go.
Yeah.
But I think that is a great way to start. And that's the other thing about Lastics is it's your stretch.
Right.
Like, you should do what you feel comfortable with, what you feel safe with. If this one doesn't feel great, do something else until you have enough length to be able to sit in that 4th position comfortably.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Any other hip questions that I can help with?
I'm sure there are, but nothing that I can think of right now. I'll just, poke you at dinner or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if there are any questions, I'm just going to check and make sure. Thank you all so much for coming.
And thank you so much for having me on. Thank you, Donna, for letting me ask questions and do a little bit of a session.
Yeah. We're going to have some more fun Lastics chats come up, and we have some amazing classes. We just added a new class on Tuesday nights with the amazing Angela. So check out our schedule, and thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.